hear what I really think.
Go. Good afternoon. This is the initial meeting of the Fort Myers Beach Charter Review Commission. We are meeting at Town Hall in the council chambers at 6231 Estero Boulevard, Fort Myers, Florida. Today is Tuesday, October the 7th. It is 2 p.m. My name is Nancy Stuprich, and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the town attorney for the town of Fort Myers Beach. This is our first meeting. The town council appointed 5 members and 2 alternates to serve on this commission. On our agenda today is the appointment of a chair, and once we get to that part of the agenda, I will then give the gavel to whoever the individual is who is selected to serve. So if we could all please stand at this time and announce the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I would now ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Okay. Ed Schoonover?
Here, present.
Henry Zuba?
Right.
Jim Dunlap?
Present.
Beverly Milligan?
Present.
Anita Saracita?
Present.
And I have Brian Thomas by phone, and we have to vote to allow him to appear telephonically, so.
So let's go ahead and ask that the members that are present, is there a motion?
I have a motion to approve Brian coming in remote for today's meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, let the record show that it was unanimous.
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, awesome. Sorry I can't be there today, but I'm physically, but I'm happy to be here in spirit and on the telephone.
Okay, he expressed his appreciation for being able to participate remotely and will be participating as needed in our meeting today. The next item on your agenda is item 4, which is public comment. I see one person in the chamber, but it doesn't look like they are interested in speaking at this time. So we will move on. So the first item on your agenda is kind of like the why. Why are we even here today, right? Why did you all take the time to submit an application and indicate a willingness to serve on this commission, and cross your fingers and hope that the town council appointed you to be on this committee? And the reason for it is there is a section in the town's charter, which we will talk about forever over the next year. This is section 13.03, and it's entitled Charter Review. And that section of the charter states, the charter will be reviewed at least every 10 years. A 5-member charter review commission shall be appointed and funded by the council. The Charter Review Commission shall be appointed at least 6 months before the next scheduled election and must complete its work and present any recommendations to the council for a change to the charter. I'm adding that in there because it really needs to be there. No later than 60 days before the election. The council shall hold a minimum of 2 public hearings to approve, reject, or modify proposed changes to the charter prior to placing the proposed changes on the scheduled election ballot. That section of the charter is the purpose and the reason that you have gathered here today. Other than that section, there's really no direction in the charter as far as your organization. So that would be really the first item that we would want to discuss today. Some of the administrative type issues that must be resolved in order for you to complete the purpose and the objective and the mission that you have been appointed to fulfill. So with that said, and then of course throughout the year, as we continue to meet and talk about our charter, we will go back to section 13.03 after you've had a few meetings under your belt. And then you'll have, I think, a better idea of what needs to be put in there as far as language or what needs to come out. And that is pretty much what your review of the charter will necessitate.
Will we hear from staff and their recommendations with regard to that? Yeah, I have it on, I thought. Will we get the advice of staff as to their
Yes.
suggestions?
Yes, we will.
Okay. All right.
We will, you are empowered to basically make a request. There is a section in the charter that addresses the duties and responsibilities of the town manager, the duties and responsibilities of the town attorney. When we get to that section of the charter, Will can make comments, I can make comments, you can ask us any questions that you like.
Okay.
So with that said, I will defer to you to have a discussion as far as the selection of your chair and the selection of your vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Jim Dunlap for chair.
I'll second.
Okay, Jim, do you accept the nomination?
I do, thank you.
Okay, I think just for, regular parliamentary procedures, a motion's been made, it has been seconded. At this point, it would be appropriate to vote. If those in favor of Jim, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
And Brian said aye as well. So it looks like it's unanimous. And so Jim, here you go.
Oh, thank you.
Scared me for a second.
All right, the next order of business looks like to me the selection of a vice chair in case I'm incapacitated to lose interest or don't show up.
I'd like to nominate Brian, and I can't remember Brian's last name.
Thomas.
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 Brian Thomas for vice chair.
I'll second.
Does he accept? Brian, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries
Wait,
unanimously,
he
including
voted.
Brian. We're going to strike your vote from the record, Brian, but we'll include an enthusiasm there, so.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the dates, which I believe there has been a list of the next 6 or 7 meetings sent out by email with the original agenda. Does everybody still have access to those?
Yep.
Madam Attorney, I assume a quorum is 3 of the attending 5 in a 5-group body?
Yes, that would be consistent with parliamentary rules, but there is no indication of that. And also, I do want to hear a little discussion later about the role of the alternates.
All right,
I think that's going to be something that you need to establish, and we would run it by the town council just to make sure they would be okay with that.
I bring that up in, for advancing the conversation around remote participation, which I see is on our agenda here in a minute too. And whether or not we have the flexibility to vote on including that as a quorum member or not. Do you know what flexibility we have that as a body?
No, in order to establish the quorum, you must have 3 people physically present, and
Okay.
others could participate remotely.
Very good. Just want everybody to hear that when they look at the dates. So any first reactions from anyone on the dates that something's a hard no, just so we know we have the potential to keep a quorum going through all the meetings?
I know November 4th for me is it's not necessarily a no, I can join remotely, but I will be out of the country.
Are there 2 other members will be here? Are there 2 other members will be here on the 4th?
I'll be here.
You'll be here?
I may or may not be.
Brian, does the 4th work for you, sir?
It does, yes.
All right, so will you be able to in person then?
Yes.
All right, so that should meet our quorum. Any other dates on here as you look forward? I know it's a ways out and things are going to change, and probably these will for other reasons too, but anything else is a hard stop just to make sure we don't lose more than 2 members?
Not at the moment.
Okay, good. Same there?
If I'm looking at this recent,
That's right.
yeah, and so we're really doing, we're really doing today what is listed here is November 4th.
No, there'll be a November 4th meeting.
I
Yeah.
see that,
Yeah.
but we're talking about, are we talking about Articles 1, 2, and 3 today? Because we are. Which
I can
puts us-
clarify, if it's at your discretion, you now are an assembled body with leadership, and we just put it on there depending on how long you wanted to go today, or if you want to stop, it's somewhat fluid. Whatever we don't cover today would probably spill over to the next meeting.
Right. It's just
Joe, please.
that I see that Articles 4 and 5 are very important.
You
And
bet.
I think that we need to get as many people there as possible so that we can all participate in the voting process.
Sure.
Given I cannot guarantee I will be here on the 4th, I would ask that that be considered,
December 2nd, because that's the,
yeah,
you're
that we
okay with that
keep
date?
it to December 2nd
Good.
for Articles 4 and 5.
Well, it looks like we have the potential to have our quorum, subject to changes that always happen in life. So I would entertain a motion to officially publish this list of anticipated meeting dates, and they will be at 2 o'clock.
That's
Madam
okay
Town?
with everyone? 2
Yeah.
o'clock?
Works okay with me.
So move.
We have support? Okay, I'll
Okay.
support that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any conversation or further discussion about the dates, in addition to what we've had? All right, we need a roll call on that. Are we okay with group?
I always prefer a roll call simply because it makes the minutes a lot clearer.
Brian, your vote on the adoption of the dates for the forward meetings?
Yes.
Okay, Ed?
Yes.
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 And a yes here, so the motion carries unanimously. So unless otherwise published in advance according to our proper procedures, these will be the dates we'll be meeting at this location, 2 o'clock.
Yes, may I add a few comments?
Please.
And your vote is fine. So if you notice, though, that basically your work needs to be completed by April the 6th of 2026, and the language in your charter that I read said that your commission shall be appointed at least 6 months before the next scheduled election and complete its work and present recommendations to the council for change no later than 60 days. So clearly, the April 6th is way in advance for that, but there is a reason for that. And it is because of the deadlines that our supervisor of election has for putting things on the ballot. And any change to your charter is ultimately going to be put on the ballot for a vote by the electorate. I'm going to defer to Amy, my partner in crime here, if you want to talk a little bit about that part of the election process, just for information purposes.
About going on the ballot?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Supervisor of Elections Office has, we reached out to them. They sent us the deadlines for getting on the November 3rd, 2026 general election ballot, and that's where these any referenda changes would appear on that ballot. And the deadline for that is the end of June of 2026. So we're backdating, trying to get us there with plenty of time extra if needed. So that's where we've come up with this schedule that you just approved with the dates.
And the backing it up is because, if you recall, it says in your charter, the council shall hold a minimum of 2 public hearings to approve, reject, or modify.
There you go.
So you have to, at the end of your, in April, by April, we will need to have a report put together as to what your findings are, as far as, does the charter need to be amended or does it not? That is then presented to the town council, who by ordinance would have to adopt an ordinance in order to send it to the supervisor of elections to put it on the ballot. So what are we talking about as far as an ordinance? Now we're talking 2 readings and an adoption hearing. So that's really 2, possibly 3 meetings from the town council before that deadline date to get it actually printed on the ballot, to get it to go in November. So I wanted just to take the opportunity to explain that a little bit, because on first glance, you might say, well, why are we stopping in April? And, the charter seems to give you a longer period of time.
Well, the quicker we can get our work done and make positive recommendations to the council, the better. A process question, if they make substantive changes, does it stay then within their purview to adopt those, or does it come back to this commission for any reason?
No, I believe it stays with their.
So once we turn it over, our responsibilities are extinguished.
Yes, I mean, you can, as a representative, in the presentation process, generally the chair will make the presentation on behalf of the commission.
Okay?
And then subsequent to that, you no longer are a member of this commission. The commission is pretty much disbanded and defunct. So it's not like the council would be sending things back to you.
Excellent.
Unless during your presentation time, they ask that you continue your service on the commission. That is a possibility as well.
I think it's just important because the public as well as the members, there's a learning curve involved with this. Don't typically engage in this once every decade. And knowing what the process will be and the alternatives for public participation, our commission's responsibility beginning and end, and discharging that, and what roles and responsibilities we have after we create our document, I think it's just important to get documented.
So if I may, as a, point of courtesy, a point of personal privilege, I think it is, but I'm not even a member of your board or your commission. We do have Anita here who did serve on the prior town charter review. It might be appropriate at this time to go ahead and hear from her as far as her experience of the process.
Excellent. Anita?
I'll tell you the charter review that I remember most vividly. Hank will probably remember this too. Tom Babcock, who was
Chair
on
of
the
that.
LP, he was the chair of that. And they were in-depth to every single line of the charter and came back with many, many suggestions to review. Some that were just scriveners, like Nancy just brought up, it should say changes to the charter. That would be something
Right.
that should probably be changed and fixed. And just depending on the charter review, depends on, and the time that it's done, has really depended upon the focus of that charter review committee. This focus will be completely different than theirs, and how intensely they come back with recommendations. And then to see, I mean, probably one of the biggest changes that the Charter Review Committee made was, and that was put forward to ballot, was changing the election date cycles, compensating town council members. That had to go before the electorate. So, Jim, you said something, it's a learning curve, and hopefully people will pay keen attention to the discussions that happen here, because if there are changes to the charter, they will impact the whole town and impact the future of the history of the town. So, I mean, the charter review committees have always had dynamic conversations, been very engaged, and I think the council has always received the recommendations very well. I don't recall that we ever said, oh no, we're not going to pass this on. It's basically if the Charter Review Committee had recommended it, then isn't that right, Amy, as I remember it? That it automatically went on to the ballot. And some of the things were approved and some of them weren't. So it's a super important role, and really important when it comes, right now, I think especially, is very timely and super important for the future of the town.
Thank you. Hank, what can you add to that with your experiences, and fill in some blanks for us? You've been through this.
I, like Anita, have certain memories of attending those meetings, and my strongest memories are with regard to modifying the financing terms, allowing for longer-term financing for our debt.
Forgot about that.
It was limited to 3 years, and
Wow.
that obviously has a tremendous impact on interest rates, and
And cash flow, yeah.
many of us wanted to change that, and I think that got approved. Secondly, I think the the process of both salary recommendations had some heated discussion about what level of compensation somebody really deserves in this concept, you know. Some of us disagreed, and anyway, it came to some conclusion that gave people with raises. Those are my two memories of it.
Can I add?
Sure, Nancy, thank you.
So, it's interesting, in other charter review commissions that I have worked with, sometimes there's discussion about topics that are very timely and very needed by the local government, but they just don't really fit in the charter per se. However, it is part of the recommendation. I have seen it go to the town council because there's other laws and rules that the town of Fort Myers Beach and other local governments follow. So starting kind of at the very bottom of the echelon would be kind of a policy. So there may be a recommendation that the town council consider a policy. Policy can be approved by the town council at one meeting as an agenda item. One level up from that might be a resolution. A resolution is generally an official statement or position by the town council. But the resolution is used in reality, it's used for many, many purposes. In fact, at one point, the town was codifying its rezonings by resolution, which I think the statute then changed, so we kind of changed over with that. The adoption of a resolution is just really at a public meeting. So having an agenda item with that resolution on it means you could get something passed. The next level up would probably be an ordinance. And once you get to the ordinance level, then you do have to abide with Florida statutes, which requires the 2 reading of the title plus an advertisement in the newspaper. One more step up is your charter. And charter changes, and we'll go over this in depth a little bit later, generally have to be by referendum. And that requires getting it on the ballot, which means it's going to be pretty hard to get something changed that's in your charter as opposed to getting something implemented through either an ordinance or a resolution. So an idea or a concept or a recommendation that you have may not be approved by council to be put into your charter, but it could still become part of an ordinance, or it could be a resolution or perhaps even a policy. Now, the drawback is, if you think about it, how permanent is it? Because if you do put something in your charter, it's a lot more difficult to change it or to amend it. If you put something in an ordinance, if you have a different town council, they may change it after 2 readings of the title and the adoption. And the same is true with the resolution. At one meeting, it might change. So those are kind of the different echelons and the levels. So I just wanted to share that with you now because all ideas are good. And whether they make it into the charter or not, there might be another way to actually make that concept or idea or recommendation part of the town's governance.
Yeah, it's akin to our constitution of our community. That's why it should be hard to change and should take a lot of communication, transparency, and community involvement before it happens, and a formal vote of the people to decide whether or not. So it isn't change on a whim, but it's change through deliberate effort and action and research and disclosure. I would ask you, Nancy, if you wouldn't mind, I assume that there'll be something on the website about the creation, the members, and whatever is appropriately published. If you could put that dissertation down on the level of those in some sort of a document that Amy can upload to that, as well as what we're not in charge of. This is not the comp plan review. It's not the land development code. I think it's real important to get that out as quickly as we can, because those questions will start coming because they don't understand the scope and reach perhaps. So if we could get that published as a result of this group being formed, then we can focus our conversation ideas around the things we're in charge of and capable of influencing. Anybody else have any comments or suggestions on that? Okay. So we've got the dates, absences, and remote participation. So I assume you're looking for some formal action on whether or not we will allow call-ins and Zoom as a participant, non-quorum counting member of the group?
Yes.
I
Okay.
thought we did that, yeah.
We did it for Brian today, but to formalize it as a policy for the group going forward,
Okay.
I would entertain a motion for either approval or rejecting the idea of having people call in by either phone or Zoom, please.
I'll move that.
Okay, we have a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Second on Ed. End conversation? Other concerns? All right, let's do the vote then if we can, Hank?
I,
Aye.
Ed?
I,
Brian?
Aye.
Aye. Ed?
Aye.
And I'm an aye also. So the motion carries unanimously. On remote participation, talked about absences. To remind everyone, we just talked about the call-ins are great. They can't be counted as an official quorum, so there need to be 3 of us here. All right, role of the alternates. Nancy, you want to walk through what the scope of that conversation should entail so we can react accordingly?
Sure. So right now, your charter doesn't really provide for the selection of alternates. Having alternates available is good in that you are able to continue the dialogue, but the issue becomes, what is the authority of that alternate? Does the alternate simply work with you and engage in conversation, or does that person actually have a vote? Is that person taking the place of a specific member who might be absent? And kind of just doing whatever that person could do, or what is your expectation of the alternate? And then what happens if we have 2 alternates present at the meeting and there is 1 absence? How do you choose which alternate is going to participate and which alternate is going to just, participate but not have the ability to vote if you choose to give them the ability to vote?
just a question on that. If someone is missing and the alternate takes their place, does that preserve the quorum?
That is a question that needs to be addressed.
I think that should qualify for quorum, I'd say. That would be my thought,
Okay,
is that if somebody is not able to attend, the alternate, that's the purpose of the alternate, it seems to me, to fill in that 5 vote, Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
so we have 2 physically present and an alternate. We can go ahead with our business under your conversation, Hank, as if there are 3 present, one of the alternates being activated as a full member for that meeting, and then will resume their alternate status when the members reappeared physically in the meeting,
And have the right to vote,
and have the right to vote during that meeting, okay?
okay?
Brian, let me go over to you on the phone, because I know how that feels. Do you have a feeling around the use of the alternates in this context?
I guess only to that, if they're standing in for a member that's absent, I would expect that, they could vote accordingly, participate and vote as a full member.
Yes.
I think that's consistent.
Yeah.
Ed, how do you feel about it?
No, I agree with that completely.
Okay.
I agree too.
Jeff, what's on your mind on this?
It's fine with me.
All right, and I guess the further question was the selection of the alternate if we have 2 present. How do we go about adjudicating which one should participate in the single absence of a member? Who has some thoughts around that?
Scott, you,
I guess, Jim, to get off the dime here, I'd recommend or propose for conversation, maybe those people would actually alternate. So we'd have an alternating alternate, if you will,
Yep.
meaning, for that particular meeting. And then if the alternate is needed in future, it would be the next person.
Any reaction to that from the team?
I was
No,
gonna
I-
make the same suggestion.
Yes, I like that suggestion too. Just couldn't word it properly.
Hank, how do you feel about that?
Scott, you already have the role, obviously, as council person. Is it appropriate to have both the role of that as well as the alternate?
So I'm just the council liaison. I don't have any voting. I'm just here to report on,
So you're not an official alternate in any way?
no, sir.
The only
No,
one is
that would be
Michelle
Anita
Church.
and Michelle.
Yeah,
So my role is basically as the liaison. If you guys have during your meeting a question about what the council's thinking, what you may bounce off, hey, can you bring this to council next meeting? Just give an update. Or if you have a specific question that I can't answer, I can bring it to council at the next meeting and then report back the following month.
Well, good of you to attend. Thank you.
I'm here.
All right, so with that feedback, let me attempt to make a motion then to codify this into our rules of operation.
Mr. Chair.
I have one more question
Oh, I'm
for
sorry,
you.
sure.
Is the attendance of the alternate required at all your meetings? Or do they only come when there's somebody who's not here? I mean, we have Anita here today, our other alternate was not able, but by coming to the meeting, then they know about what's been discussed.
Couldn't agree more.
As we go through that process.
I think they should be invited, fully included, and they know their role based on how this motion comes out, sitting as an alternate or a voting member of that meeting, but their presence is important in my mind.
Certainly having the experience of somebody like you, Anita,
Oh,
is very
absolutely.
important.
I just have a question for
Please.
you. So let's say that you all didn't agree to the date changes and Beverly was not here, and I was the alternate chosen to sit in her place. Am I expected to vote like I think Beverly would vote? Because there would be some heated discussions, I'm sure. And so depending on which alternate or what the scenario is might depend upon how a vote goes.
I think your conscience is clear.
And I would also
But you
say,
know what I mean.
I do
mean, so-
completely-
But I don't think you could ever anticipate what somebody would
good
vote.
for you.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, I think that it's something that you should contemplate.
I would hope that, and I'm sure we will, have full disclosure and full communication. We will know exactly how she feels about the things she feels, and we will all consider those inputs into our reaction. And I guess much like any alternate juror, when they get called to sit in, they are of their own mind, they've heard all the same information, and they should be completely free to
Reach
speak
their
it.
own conclusion.
Exactly.
Right?
Does that help with that?
I mean, because I'd be happy to
Absolutely.
write out how you should vote. in a meeting.
I know you,
I've
Hank.
been trying to do that for 20 years.
I know,
and hadn't had much success. You know?
I'm gonna put you right beside her at the next meeting if you're gonna be that influential, that would be great. All right, let me try to reduce this to a motion then on what I've heard, and please correct as we go through this. And this is specifically about remote participation. It's the will of the body at this point that the alternates will, whenever possible, participate in person at the meetings published that we approved earlier. They will have, in the situation where we do not have a physical quorum, 3 members out of the 5 sitting at the time, even with remote participation of alternate or of other members, they will fill in for that third person to designate a quorum and will fully participate and vote in lieu of that person accordingly. And if we have both alternates here at a meeting where one is required to step into that role, we will alternate their participation based upon who had the last fill-in at the previous meeting. Did I miss anything on that motion? If not, I'd take a second, we can talk more about it again.
I will second that.
All right, let me open it back up for discussion and make sure I got it all. Brian, let's start with you again. Is there anything that you recommended that I either didn't include or you want clarified?
No, I believe I'm good with what you recommended, Jim.
Hank, how about you?
Same, I agree.
Bev?
No,
Anita?
it's clear.
No, what about discussion? A discussion on any given motion or during the course, what's the role of the alternate with discussion at the dais? Or even if, I just would like that
Whether or
to
not
be-
you're sitting in an active role, voting role.
Exactly.
Great. I think we've proven today that we're going to call on the alternates for their perspective and context and history. So unless somebody else feels strongly about that, I will add that you're fully invited to participate gets down to, we have the quorum here, we'll do what's within our authority, but the conversation will matter to us.
Although you do have the 3 minutes.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. They still can participate as part of public comment on
Should we-
any items that you are proposing.
Yeah.
Public comment or comment here?
I-
Because my question is, what purpose would Michelle or I have in sitting here if we are not participating in the conversation?
I would-
Whether we're voting members or not?
Yeah, I would just say that I would welcome your participation in the discussion.
Yeah.
It'd be very helpful at times.
And we'll benefit from it. So they'll both be included accordingly.
If I may, Jim, that was kind of our vision too, is that they participate, they don't vote, but they do
So
participate.
that was the intent of council selection for the alternates in the first place. Good. All right, we have motion on the floor. It's properly seconded. Any other conversation? All right, Brian, your vote?
Aye.
Ed?
All right,
Hank?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye also. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, the alternates. Serious role, serious contribution. You're
And
official
I
now.
will, if I may, I will take it under advisement as well to determine, do we need to have some authorization from the town council in order for you to do that? Because there's really nothing that addresses alternates. Alternates are not addressed in your charter, and there is no ordinance. So again, we'll be looking at that echelon of, maybe they'll just do a resolution, maybe they'll do, maybe an emergency ordinance that would be valid for 6 months, which will probably hold you over. Or maybe we codify it, and we put more detail about what the Charter Review Commission does in the form of an ordinance, not in your charter per se, but in an ordinance, so that it does have that flexibility if we need to amend it without having to wait for the creation and the convening of a charter review commission.
So Liaison Safford, I have 2 requests then. If you would carry that message forward to get that codified and as expeditiously as possible.
Got it.
All right, that's very good practice for our conversations on the things we're going to have that obviously be meaningful to charter changes. All right, before we get into the Sunshine Law, and I'm sure you're going to take us through all that, a couple of questions I've got. Do we have a budget expenses for the things we may choose to do in any light item in the town's budget right now?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
But we could ask, is there any expenditure that you feel that this group will
Anticipating,
need?
yes. Well,
Okay.
2 things, let me start at the beginning. Will we have any restrictions, Nancy, in your mind on things we recommend? Is there any overlap with Senate Bill 180 regarding charter changes?
No, I believe that SB 180 is only talking about land use regulations.
Excellent. Okay, we got that on the record then in case that comes up in the social sphere out there. Back to my question, I have a couple things that at some point we can talk more detail around. I think part of the process in getting feedback from the community on those that are either seasonal remote or just physically can't communicate with us, interact with us another way, is to think about having an official survey brokered by this group. I have individuals that I have worked with in the past that are extraordinarily good at this process and in this type of a venue and forum. But there will be a charge for that. It's not significant, but putting it together, getting it out, and where the real magic becomes is the analysis and distillation of what the results are, and bringing those back in one of these meetings so we get the benefit of that first or second round of either things we're talking about or, as Hank talked about a little bit earlier, that things that we feel we should have in the agenda to talk about that aren't necessarily drawn out yet in the charter.
Are you proposing a budget for a consultant?
Just to have the survey commission, so yes.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think it's our job to muddle through as best we can without much outside consultation at this point.
Okay. The only thing I'm pushing on that a little bit is I understand how the words feel and how the expense looks. But it's an extremely efficient, inclusive, and very defendable, statistically defendable way to get feedback and priorities from people that can't participate in another venue that we have. I would assume the cost would be nominal, but I don't know about that yet. So your feedback's appreciated and certainly welcome. But I want to kind of hear from the rest of them and see whether or not this is an idea with any legs. And then I'll go about getting quotes and share them with everybody, and we'll see whether or not it rises to that
So
that level of concern.
can I clarify then, what I heard Hank say was the word consultant, and the role of a consultant with a charter review committee, and there are people that do that, is different from obtaining a survey, which is what I'm hearing our chair say. So are we talking apples and oranges here?
It's definitely commissioning of a survey being produced, distributed, and most importantly, analyzed and presented back to us and the town.
That doesn't seem to me to be
Is that a
contradictory to consulting. It's just a form of consulting, that's all.
It's a form of providing input, but as a consultant will generally give you a variety of options and then guide you as you evaluate each one of those
Depends on the consultant,
options.
Nancy.
Is that,
I don't agree. I mean, I think a consultant's a consultant, and we tell them what to do if we pay them. And that's it.
yes, yes.
Okay, let's hear from others. Ed, were you on this? Just conversation at this point, of course.
Sure. I worry about the survey a little bit and who the survey would go out to. I know a lot of times we have surveys and studies and that, and we end up getting a bunch of non-resident opinions in there that, and I would really like to focus on the residents and what they would want us to do.
Sure.
I've got the same concern. Who is the survey, who would the survey go to?
Okay.
And that's really, I need more clarity on that.
So it's how we would define and clarify and restrict the universe of people that would be receiving it, and therefore the
Yeah.
opinions that we get back. That's your concern?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
absolutely.
Brian?
Yeah, I would echo that. I don't believe I have enough information at this point to say yes or no.
Okay,
So I'd like to see a proposal with whatever the duties are going to be along with the cost.
very good. And Anita, feedback from your experience
Well,
or background?
Jim, I kind of like your idea, which, not to, go contrary to what everybody else is saying, but I like the idea of the reach out. I am surprised, or have been surprised in recent weeks, how few people know what a charter is. I said to one lady, well, like the Magna Carta, clueless on Magna Carta. So I thought, okay, well, that, but I think, Bev and Brian saying, what would it go to? I think we were all a little gun shy with a lot of input from people who don't live here, and you wouldn't want that to happen, but I'm assuming that whoever you would reach out to would be able to profile residents. That's easy enough to do. Hell, we do it for voting, we do it for, elections. That should be easy enough to do. I don't think it's a bad idea.
Well, I owe you some more information, and I am the anti-consultant person, by the way. I'm right there with you, pal. I fought my entire professional career to keep them out of my company, because they never have to live with their good ideas, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
This is much different for me because it's a direct touch to the residents. And we'll have more information, just concept right now, but more so it's a stimulated dialogue through this body to council on whether or not we have some funds that can be allocated for doing this kind of work, so we get good feedback. The second thing I would bring up then, this
Chair
one.
Dunlap, may I
Please.
suggest maybe we create an email just for CRC comments or something?
Love that.
We can put it.
That's a great idea.
We'll activate the charter review page under all the committees once
That
this
is
is over.
fabulous.
We can create something just there that we'll share with you.
Okay?
Did you have an amount that you wanted to go ahead and ask council for that Scott needs to bring forward?
He who speaks first loses? No, I don't, because I haven't broken this conversation any further than just to see if the individual that I know is available. Nothing more than that. I didn't have the authority to do so and didn't know if they were interested. So let me do my work on that side, and then we can bring them back something to react to.
So why don't I broach the subject, and let's talk with Joe at our next meeting and see if there are funds available, or,
Yeah.
there may be something that we could allocate.
I've also done some preemptive communication at Florida Gulf Coast University. I thought it would be very valuable. The Office of the President there has a department that does municipal partnerships and other things with the community. They are interested in seeing more about what we'd be thinking about, but having a student research project on what, at least my initial conversation with her was, what have other communities done the last 10 years? What are some practices going on in like-sized communities for charter improvements and recommendations? What have they been through that we either have or have not, that we could add language that address that? I think it'd be good for the students. They're energetic. They get credit for doing these kind of things. It's part of the charter, if you will, of the university to be community engaged and have these type of things. But again, we need some authority from the town to set up a portal with them and have an official relationship that allows the request to go out and for them to stimulate that through academic process and putting a Vita together for the kids to work from and all the stuff you would normally do. But I want to get some reaction for that before there were any follow-up conversations also.
Bravo. Bravo.
You're good?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So I think I need some clarification. Are you suggesting that we create some type of program or liaison relationship to have an intern?
It would actually be in my vision. The relationship is you set up a portal with them. That's how they communicate, and you actually apply for an opportunity to have this partnership officialized. I would look at this as part of an academia within a classroom setting where students of like interest in mind would be asked to participate in doing this research and making a formal presentation to this body in a public hearing with their professor, advisor, whoever it happens to be, overseeing the quality of the product at the end. To my mind, it would be to cast a big net in like-sized environments and situations and bring back what it is others are doing and that we ought to be aware of is an option that some have taken. We do not have that set up with them today because I did check. They've done nothing with Fort Myers Beach as an official community partner.
So that is at the university level.
It is.
I will say that the Florida League of Cities also has a youth council that is a formalized program through the league. And I believe our council member, King, is involved in a leadership role with the Florida League of Cities. But those are generally high school students, and they pretty much form their own little city, and they meet periodically and they discuss, issues that the local government is having, and brainstorm and do the type of things that you're proposing, but that is at the high school level, not at the university level.
Jim, have you seen where, a case study where this has been done?
I have not personally seen it, but when I talk to that office, they do these type of things and would entertain this request as part of their community partnership outreach, which they're required and organized to do. I didn't go any further because there's a point where you show interest and then it gets beyond, and I don't want any commitments to be misunderstood or anything. So I stopped it until the formation of this group.
I think these types of things are done all the time. I think there's lots of precedent, and it's just a fabulous idea. I've been involved in all kinds of relationships like that professionally, and they're very positive for both parties.
Okay?
Well, obviously, the question of cost, students always have their hands out, and it is unrealistic to think they're going to come and do work for us without some compensation. So I think there goes back to the question of some budget. I'm questioning whether or not staff has already gotten any recommendations from either the Florida League or the group that I'm involved with in the county LPA, that whether or not the county would provide some back thoughts about other charters. How have they recommended any changes that have been effective or ineffective?
Great. Ed?
I'm in favor of your idea, but I would like you to take it further. You said you kind of quit. You just stopped until we got together.
Stop where my authority ended, and that was pretty close to the start.
Right. And so bring back more information for us.
Okay. Brian?
I would agree with the same. I'd like to see a little more information, but on the surface, conceptually, I'm in favor.
Well, thank you. I'll follow up through the next step. My thoughts were that we would have some of these responsibilities delegated out through the team, so we have direct contact and liaisons with the members with these initiatives, so we're all carrying some water and showing the diversification of thought and commitment on that. So I'll bring back the next germination part of this process on these two things, get your reaction to that, and then if they have some legs to them, I think we'll get them delegated out and get some people working on it in the process. We should know by our next meeting on at least some reaction from the town on the budget tanks idea too. All right, so I want to make sure before we move on, because the sunshine stuff is going to be important, if there's anything miscellaneous like that that people have built up in anticipation of this meeting. Let me go again back to the phone, Brian. Is there anything else you want for the good of the cause, just to make sure we have in the initial inventory, not about the charter itself, but about ideas and concepts and process?
So just, I guess, a question, since we're on 7 and looking to 8, question, if I can, regarding what I think might be 8, is the attachments that we received with the agenda, is that the culmination of the work product of the 2016 charter review? And A, and B, if it's not, is it possible, allowed, available, that we as a group, we could see the final findings of the 2016 Charter Review Commission?
This does not represent that, all summary of the recommendations. As Anita's pointed out, Tom Babcock and the committee all had a great number of recommendations, some of which went to the point of being ordinances rather than modifications of charter. And like many of us who participate in committees, overreached in many ways. But we like to hear ourselves talk, so we do, you know.
So town clerk or Madam Attorney, do we have access to that work product, or is that dissipated and only ended up in what's left in the charter?
Did it swim?
That's the question, did it swim?
Yeah.
We would have access to minutes, any council items that went before council. Videos are gone, unless for some reason we captured them somewhere in the cloud, which back in 2015, when this was happening, I highly doubt. Those
Clouds are pretty high then.
tapes didn't swim well. We'll see what we can find.
Okay,
Let's
distribute
just-
accordingly.
Excellent.
Yep, I'll distribute it accordingly, whatever I find. I know we'll have minutes of both the committee and council. We'll have those items that went before both boards,
That's excellent.
and we'll get them to you. We'll find what we can.
Thanks, Amy.
Brian, anything
Thank
else,
you.
sir? Okay, hearing none. Ed, anything else on your mind miscellaneous before we move on to the,
No, I don't have anything right now.
okay, Hank, how about you, sir?
No.
Okay, Beth,
No.
Anita?
No, sir.
All right, we're sitting up straight, Nancy. You have our full attention.
Oh, yes, I did have something, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Aren't all the committees going to a sunshine review?
Yes,
So do we have to do that
yes.
today?
Well, that was what I was going to
Advise?
basically say.
Oh, that's great.
You read my mind. If you look at the last page of the handout that we had today, there is an advertisement or a flyer that talks about the advisory committees. They're basically having a sunshine law and a public records training. That training will occur on October the 22nd from 10 to 12. It will be 2 hours. And it will be located here in this building, and it will be recorded in the event you cannot attend that.
What was that date?
Thank you.
It's the very last
22nd.
page.
Whoa,
I got it.
There you go. However, today, I did feel it would be very important to go ahead and just talk about a few of the nuts and bolts of sunshine as well as public records, which at that session, I will spend 2 hours talking about. many of you already serve on committees, so you probably could to provide the information that I'm gonna provide to you anyway. But it's always good to remember, you know, what the Sunshine Law requires, as well as the requirements under our public records law. So in a nutshell, the Sunshine Law, which really, public meetings, requires that in the event any two of you should have a conversation regarding, a topic that will come before you, that must, thanks, that must occur within the context of or the setting of a public meeting. So you can't really have private conversations outside of this meeting, this forum, about matters that reasonably will come before you for a vote. The nuances are that a lot of times there's some distrust among the public, and they may see two of you together at a private gathering or even at another public event. You could be sitting in the audience next to each other, and you might be casually discussing something that may not ever come before you sitting in this role, in this capacity. But hey, they're back there talking about it, and I think she's telling him or he's telling her to vote in a certain way. So it kind of raises some suspicions, but for all we know, you could be back there swapping recipes or talking about a football game, and you just don't know. So that is really the biggest, I think, the risk to members of those people who serve on advisory committees as well as on elected boards. It's the appearance of possibly having a sunshine violation, but probably not a sunshine violation in and of itself. The key word is it reasonable? Is it reasonably foreseeable that it would come before you? You might be chatting about something that 6 months from now, a year from now, something related comes before you, but at the time, it was not reasonable that you would be casting a vote on it. So that's kind of the distinction. It's two or more of you together. It's a small community, basically, so you're going to run into each other outside of this meeting. The other thing about the Sunshine Law is, you know, let's say we get into a very controversial topic, possible change to the charter. I mean, we have at-large elections. Maybe somebody proposes that we have districts created, and, you know, you're really not sure how everybody's going to vote based on the comments that they've made. And you might pull me or Amy or Scott aside and say, hey, what do you think? You know, I don't want to be the one sole vote voting against this or voting for this proposal. You can't use a member of staff as a conduit, saying, hey, I think I'm going to vote for this. Could you let Jim know that, you know, maybe I'm going to be voting this way? So we have to be really careful of that, because sometimes it's done inadvertently, and staff has been trained as well. They've gone through sunshine training, and they know better than to relay anything. And it's kind of like, hey, I don't know, you know, well, have you talked to other members? What do you think? Yeah, I talked to other members, but I don't know what they think. You'll have to come to the meeting to find out. So as a best practice, what I always recommend is that if two of you happen to be together, whether sitting in the audience at a public meeting or at an event, that you have a third party who is somewhat disinterested, doesn't really have a stake in the outcome, serve as a witness to the fact that you were not discussing something that was foreseeable to come before you. Now, the other thing I want to add too is that at the end of the day, you're doing a recommendation to council, so your vote's really not a final agency action. So that that kind of mitigates some potential sunshine violations. However, you really don't want to spend your time having to defend the fact that you volunteered to serve on this committee and there was nothing that was inappropriate or unlawful transpiring. So that's sunshine.
What about ex parte communications?
So ex parte communications comes up in the context of a quasi-judicial hearing. And what an ex parte contact is that there is a decision maker that's going to make a decision, either approval, denial, or approval with conditions, on something that affects the private property rights of an individual. And that needs to be disclosed because whatever impact, whether it's in support or adverse to that individual's private property rights, that quasi-judicial hearing is intended to be a fair hearing. So if you're having conversations on the side with someone who's a decision maker in a quasi-judicial hearing, you no longer have a fair and impartial decision maker. So what we do in our quasi-judicial hearings is you hear me read the statement, and then the mayor generally will ask about ex parte contacts. There's a disclosure that's made. And once the disclosure is made, it somewhat takes away the presumption that the conversation was prejudicial to the rights of the private property owner. And then there's usually an opportunity, some attorneys and some staff members take advantage of it to ask even more. It's like, okay, so you went to the site and you saw the property. Was it raining that day when you went there and you saw the property? Because that may make a difference in your vote as to, you say, oh, you know, it was raining and I did see a lot of water. And so now I'm concerned about flooding. Whereas if you just said, I saw the property, I'm familiar with the property, that fact that you saw flooding there may not be openly disclosed. So that's kind of a long explanation. But in this context, you are not making quasi-judicial decisions.
So we're not subject.
So you can talk to everybody.
Okay, I just wanted, because obviously a lot of the committees that we've worked on, ex parte is a question mark.
Yes.
Before we begin.
Yes,
Okay.
it certainly is. And again, that's because it's the outcome of that hearing is going to affect someone's private property rights.
Yes.
And those are, you know, protected by the Constitution. Everybody holds them near and dear to their hearts. And so we want fairness in those type of hearings.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, and look forward to that 2-hour session, which I'm sure will be riveting.
I forgot to talk about public records.
Yeah,
Oh, darn it.
We didn't get adjourned quick enough, people.
You didn't. You didn't. So anyway, but anything that you basically write down or communications that you have, whether it's by telephone, messaging, text messaging, emails, those are the primary ones right now that you use to perpetuate and convey knowledge and information you to another person, arguably is a public record. If you make notes to yourself and you don't share it with anybody, those are really not considered private residence. That's right. They're not considered public records, but the minute you give them to someone else, again, they may be, because it depends on a case-by-case basis and what is actually being conveyed. Transitory messages like going to lunch, you know, that occur and expire very quickly. There's an exception to that as far as whether or not it's a public record, but, you know, I'm going to lunch and then I'm gonna go see the town manager and talk about blah, blah, blah. You know, that might be more of a public record rather than just something that's very transitory. I am going to turn the mic over to Amy and ask her to tell you her experience of when there is a public records request, what she does and has to go through it. Amy is the town's official custodian of records.
Just, we don't like public records.
No, we don't.
Basically, when anyone turns in a public records request, they have to be really careful about what they ask for, because I'm going to take it quite literally. If you ask for something, that's what I'm going to give you. A lot of times I know that's not really what
How about
they're
an
after.
example?
Well, a lot of times I know that's not really what they're after, but that's not what they've asked me for, so,
Can I ask you a question?
yes.
Okay, so Amy, I would like to have a copy of a letter that Nancy wrote to Will, or a draft letter that Nancy wrote to Will dated September 12th, well, he wasn't here. How about May 15th of 2025? The letter is about paving of the roadway. How would you handle that?
Well, internally, I'm gonna wonder, has that letter gone from draft to final? Because once it's finalized, that is the record then. So that's what I'm gonna work on internally. I may, that's a hard one.
So,
It
I'm
really
sorry,
is.
I didn't
Yeah,
mean
I was gonna
to
say,
take you
put
down
a
that
tough one
road.
out there right
Sorry,
away.
but what the point I was trying to make is that a
I need
letter,
as an example.
I have
A
a
letter
great, I have
may
a great
exist.
example for you.
a letter may exist, but it may not be dated May the 15th.
Right.
Or
You
someone,
specifically
and
asked
Amy
for-
will remember this, during Margaritaville, someone made a public request for any record between me, of mine, that had the words Tom, Torgerson, Margaritaville. I mean, they were very explicit. And it was any email, my personal emails. There was one I was worried about because I was saying things about someone I shouldn't have said. Had nothing to do, wasn't bad. It just, I wasn't particularly happy it was going to be public. Emails, text messages, everything. And that was quite a chore for you guys.
Right, and it's quite large. I can almost guarantee you, we're gonna charge you for that. When you do ask that request, anything over 30 minutes, we're gonna charge it at whomever's, if I'm doing it, it's gonna be at my rate. If my admin's doing it, it's gonna be at her rate. If some, and then it takes us many, many, many weeks to gather that much information.
Just to be clear, you won't charge us, you'll charge who's asking you for the information.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
What do we sign up for here, gang?
Yeah, so, I mean, that was a very specific request, but that's very broad too, because, any and all with just the word Tom, it's gonna pick up any time that the letters TOM is in any word, so then we have to sift through all that. We read every email that has to go out, every document that has to go out, make sure there's no redaction that needs into it. It's quite a chore.
Anything else, Nancy? On this precursor to the 2-hour session.
No, I would just add, on the public records, if there is pending litigation and, knock on wood, we try to resolve and not have a lot of litigation, but then after she does her sifting of the public records, it will come to the attorney, and then we spend time going through, making sure that there's no confidential information that needs to be redacted as well.
Right, a lot of times people think we're gonna give you a public record tomorrow, today still. It's quite a bit slower process than that, so.
Okay, that's it,
A
Jim.
couple of questions about process then that I've heard, at least not directly, but indirectly here. As we talk about building the agenda, and we did approve the dates we're going to meet, obviously those line item agendas on there in the chapters are what they are. But there'll be many other things that the members will want to get into the conversation on the agenda for proper inclusion. Can we talk about how to get that done legally and appropriately, so when we arrive, everybody's input is into agenda, which we can formally approve and then talk about and act on?
So that is really at the discretion of the commission, how you would like that to be handled. Again, this was your first introductory meeting. And so Amy and I, we pretty much put our heads together and thought about what do we need you to talk about? And, why we are here kind of jumped out. But then also giving you the opportunity to get organized as a commission, selecting a chair and a vice chair, and then pretty much, turning it loose to you. And we are here to serve you. Based on, whatever time constraints, we're a little bit over an hour now. Do you even want to put a time limit on how long your meetings are going to go? Or do you want them just to continue to roll through the topics that we identified? We just started at the beginning of the charter with Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. Do we need to cover those at this meeting today? No. Do you want an overview of those items today? We could do that. We've given you some information at today's meeting that you can go back and review, and then maybe at the next meeting, any follow-up on that, or whatever you want to talk about.
Sure. So let's talk about the process then by which we get that included in the agenda. I get the approach you took, and I thought it worked out just fine for all of us. I'm fairly motivated around having time limits on agendas, otherwise things grow and do all that. We can always, as a body, continue to move on and do what we want to do, but I think we ought to let the public know when they can expect to take the time off and be here, and the same thing with the people who are giving up their personal lives to do this. So I think we ought to have timeframes on there. But as we think through between the next meeting and people want to send in information to be included on the agenda, how does that functionally work so we can get the team fully prepared for that? When it's going to Amy, is that where we'll put the final agendas together? Is there going to be an email that we'll send it into that makes it both public and appropriate for the members?
Okay, so first off, the deadline to get on any agenda is 2 weeks prior to
Okay.
a meeting date.
Okay, perfect.
And that needs to be finalized, ready for attorney review, ready for review, not just placeholders.
Okay,
Are you asking that the public's items be,
I'm asking if the members have suggestions for the next committee meeting and would like to have a conversation on that and meet the advertisement deadlines. Is an email box to you or somewhere else appropriate to get that on there, so then when we all see it together at the same time, it's legal, defendable, and we can pass a final agenda for that meeting?
I would just comment, and Scott, maybe you want to chime in as far as how council handles that through their procedural rules. But when you do it that way, the members only have basically, a week, because we distribute we try really hard to get the agenda out to you a week in advance. But I would suggest that at the end of your meetings, you have, you allocate some time as to what you want to talk
Completely
about
agree.
at the next meeting.
Great.
Because that way we have a basic framework of what we're going to put on there. And then if anything comes in the interim, we can add to it. Scott, I'll defer to you if you have any suggestions.
No, I think that works well for us on council. Usually at the end of the meeting, we have member items, and if that member item percolates and say, hey, we should put this on the M&P meeting or on the next agenda, we'll ask Nancy and Will if we can do that. That way it's out in the open, it's public, it's just a much more transparent way to do it.
Well, without objection, we'll include that today then, if that's acceptable to all the members.
Yeah, I compliment you, Amy, about the process here, because we want to get through the charter. So going from top to bottom and selecting at least 3 or 4 of the articles to deal with is a good way of doing it. And in addition to that, Mr. Chairman, I think the suggestion that we have member items commented at the end of the meeting, rather than burdening Amy with going through any email we might have that, a brainstorm that occurs to us or something, that's different.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that usually works the best if you have member items at the end, and during the meeting you say, I'd really like to dive into this further, or I just thought about this. Then you can all talk about it and put it on the next agenda item.
Yeah.
That seems to be the best workflow for us right now.
Well, coincidentally, we seem to be at that point, so the topic was appropriate. So let me get into that. I threw a couple of mine out of context then that we talked about before. So I put those on member items for the next agenda on some survey research and the potential partnership with Florida Gulf Coast. We've already cleared up the Senate bill 180. So Bev, let me go to you and see if there's any member items that you'd like to generally comment or have looked into or included on the next agenda.
I guess the only thing that comes up to me when I read some of the terms here, I'd like further definition, and I just wonder if we couldn't dig into some of the, I'll give you an example in the corporate name and the purpose of the charter, and it refers to community. And so I'd be interested in sort of itemizing what community means. And itemizing some of these, or defining a little bit further what some of these sort of broad stroke terms are specific to this charter. I think community can mean so much to so many different people. Everybody has a different definition, but I think we need to really dig into some of these types of terms for the purpose of the charter, and so be thinking about, as we run into these types of words, creating a list of definitions.
And that's as we go through each article here, be mindful of the fact that where words are translatable by different communities, we should spend some time on at least trying to align our thoughts about what the intent was for that
Right.
word.
Yes.
Very good. What else?
That's it for now.
Okay, Bill, you good? Ed?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. Brian?
I'm good.
All right. And Madam Attorney is one more item.
One more item. So it appears then that Articles 1, 2, and 3 we'll be covering at our next meeting. Is that correct?
That's the will of the group at this point, yes?
Okay, and so I wanted to, you received a packet this afternoon. I want to just tell you what's in that packet, because what I did was the first item, of course, yes, the Constitution of the State of Florida. I tried to pull some state statutes that I felt would be relevant and related to why you have certain language in your charter. Because some of these articles in your charter are not going to be as timely and lively a discussion as others. For instance, if I may, let me just tell you what you get to take home with you today. So you've got, the first cover sheet is the Constitution of the State of Florida, but specifically, the important part of it is Article 8, and that is the establishment of local government, and specifically Section 2, that talks about municipalities. We are different from counties. We are not counties. Counties are generally an arm of the state. We are independent entities. So you may want to, home rule, absolutely home rule. And so you may want to look at Section 2, because that is the basis and the establishment of home rule.
Point of clarification, where's Section 2?
Yeah,
I've got
I'm not-
Section 1, it
2
goes to
should be-
Section
Okay,
5.
so I numbered the pages at the bottom. So on page 1, you see local government, Section 2.
I don't-
And then it's on the back of page 1. 1.5, where it does say municipalities. So this is the genesis of.
I don't think
I'm
your
not
copy
getting that.
machine afforded us that extra page. Because we end right here and go to 5.
Oh, we didn't get double-sided.
Right, so we don't have the Section 2 at all.
So we will provide that to you. So let me just tell you what will be in your email that you'll receive. So it is Section 2, it is the basis for the home rule establishment. And the rest of the charter has, or the Constitution has other things in it, but that is really the relevant section.
Okay?
So just as your town charter then has more general terms, the same is true with the Florida Constitution and Florida statutes, which then in Chapter 166, and this would be on my page 4, I don't know if you have that or not.
Yes.
But it's 166.021, and that by statute provides what your authority is as a municipality to govern. There's a section in 166.031, which I believe is on page 7. This is the statutory section for charter amendments, kind of the process that I just went through. So that is preempted from the state. So we hear the word preemption a lot. So home rule authority gives you the ability to do anything you want to, as long as the state hasn't taken back that authority from you. And unfortunately, every year, there are
Take a little more.
preemptions, to the point where now we are really concerned with how much home rule is really left.
Yeah.
So the way that you amend your charter is an area that has been preempted to you. This one, 166.0213, just talks about the fact that your meetings would be held in your municipality, and not somewhere else where perhaps members of your community cannot travel to have that. The next part, beginning on my page 9, kind of goes to Article 2 of your charter that talks about the boundaries of the town. And this lays out what the legal description of the town's jurisdiction is. And the question is, can the town expand or contract? And that is in section 2.02, talking about the corporate limits may be revised as provided by general law. Okay, that's really simple in your charter. But if you look at what general law is, that is in part 1 of chapter 171, that talks about the requirements to expand your municipal boundary, as well as the requirements to contract your municipal boundary. And that starts on page 9, and I believe it goes through probably close to the end, because that is a long chapter. Yeah, so that shows you how, you can have a charter provision that is very short and sweet, but there's a lot more detail that is either in Florida law or perhaps in your code of ordinances. And then the Article 3 that you have is the general powers of the municipality, and I would refer you back to the excerpts from chapter 166, being 166.021, the powers of what you can and can't do. So I just wanted to let you know what you were walking out of here with. And also, we just put Articles 1, 2, and 3 on your agenda for just to get the discussion going today.
Excellent.
In the context of this, thank you for doing that.
Very
Nancy.
good.
I appreciate it.
All right. Anything else for the good of the cause? That completes the agenda as advertised and the progress today that we were charged with accomplishing.
So what are we doing?
Town clerk?
I actually have
Yep.
something. I just
Okay,
want to
good.
remind you that I need to join remotely on the 4th of November, if someone could send me the link.
Can you recap what the agenda's gonna be?
Yes, I think so. While I'm doing that, just, we spoke earlier about creating an email for
Yes.
charter review.
Yes.
We have created that already. It's called crc@fmbgov.com.
Okay.
You'll email that to us?
I will
Yeah.
send that to you, yes.
We can click and save it.
And when we activate the committee page or the commission page, it'll be under the advisory committees on our website.
Yeah.
Give us about a week to get that up and running, so, but we'll include the link to that email there, the calendar, the charter will be there, the whole thing. We'll take suggestions, what else you might want
And I
up there,
assume,
too.
just like the OPA, that as communications come into you, they'll be forwarded out to the members.
They will be. We also have the option to, and Jim and Anita can speak to this, and so can Scott, we can also put this commission on the board portal. So everything would be
Electronic.
electronically sent to you. You can take notes.
Yep.
It's all within our software that creates this agenda. You can take notes. It saves your notes. You remember what was said. You can,
Very
go
good
back and
process.
reference that. And we'll set that up in the coming week or so. And once you're actually in it and get used to it, it is pretty easy to use.
Thank you.
If I could be added to that email too, just in case, just,
Of
yeah.
course.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could just ask Amy to go ahead and maybe recap what you're going to see
course.
on your next agenda,
Excellent.
Let me see if I can read my notes.
and I'll help.
So we are going to find out if you have any budget to work with. Scott is also going to do that, but we'll kind of do that behind the scenes. We create an email, which we did. Jim is going to bring back some further information about using FGCU students
And the survey, correct?
Yep.
and a
Yes.
survey.
I'm also going to get with council about the alternate's role.
Got it?
Gives the authority to adopt that, yeah,
Yes.
great.
Yep, and that will be at their October 20th meeting. I am going to get, well, this isn't going to be on your agenda, but I'm going to try and get you all the minutes, council items, CRC items, everything from the last one back 10 years ago. I will email that to all of
Whatever you
you.
can
Can
dust
you
off.
post that?
Right, or dry off.
Post it
Barney.
on their page,
Yeah, would it be better to post it on the page?
or how would you like me to get that information to you
Yeah,
all?
how, what is
Whatever.
easier for you?
Easiest thing for you, Amy,
Exactly.
whatever is,
What is
okay?
easier?
The easiest thing is just to email it to you.
The email.
Okay. Nancy is going to, what were you gonna do? I had your name down here.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Then we're gonna bring back Articles
First
1,
three
2,
articles,
and
yes.
3 again. And we're gonna add a member's items to the end of your agenda.
Good.
And instead of the Fort Myers Beach Charter Review Commission, which is item 5 on your current agenda, that's more than likely going to switch to approval of minutes.
So the
Yeah.
to-do that I had was to go over the hierarchy of policy, resolution.
Yes.
Ordinance, and where would you like that on the
And the
web?
scope limits of this charter commission, so it doesn't include land development code or comp plan.
Yes, where are we gonna put that?
And keep putting that out there.
Do they have a web page? Oh,
They will, that's what I just asked, give us about a week to make that active.
And then we'll put that information
Love
there. Okay.
Did I miss anything?
Did you get your topic properly explained here on word
We're gonna
definitions, et
create a
cetera?
list of
Yeah,
definitions,
yeah,
that's gonna be
yeah.
a running,
It's going to be ongoing, we'll need to discuss it, but perhaps.
The interpretation of each section, and what does it really mean?
Yeah,
That'd be very helpful.
yeah, thanks.
Okay.
All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn our first meeting.
So moved.
Is there support?
I will second.
Any conversation about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
We're
Thank
out
you.
of here.